Welcome to Career Tools. This is Wendy.
And this is Amanda.
Today's cast: increase productivity by minimizing context switching.
The questions that this cast answers are: what is context switching? Why should I avoid context switching? And how do I prevent context switching derailing my productivity?
If you want answers to these questions and more, keep listening.
Manager Tools will be visiting Chicago in just a few weeks. See us there, February 25th and 26th. To learn more, register online now at manager-tools.com/register.
I guess, Amanda, we ought to answer the question first. What is context switching for people that don't know or not sure that we're using the same definition as they are? So context switching occurs when we shift attention between different tasks or projects or thought processes. So when we're doing one thing and then we think about another thing and then we go back to the first thing often. And that disrupts the focus and our workflow and decreases our productivity. And multitasking, that productivity hack that's been pretty much thoroughly debunked, is essentially our brain switching very rapidly between tasks that we think we're doing at the same time. And that's a very fast context switching. You know, you're doing one thing, you're doing the other, you're doing one thing, you're doing the other. And whilst most of us know that multitasking doesn't work, we still context switch and think we're being productive. But research that I read shows we could be losing up to 40% of our productivity when we do this. And it also shows that remote and hybrid work causes us to context switch more than ever because there's additional distractions, especially if we're working at home, like ringing doorbells and noisy pets and children or whatever you've got at home. Plus, because we're remote, we have more digital distractions like instant messenger and video calls. And since we can't change the way we work or we can't change our environment, we have to learn to be more effective in it. And one of the ways we can do that is minimize the number of times we context switch during the day.
So what we're going to talk about today is how to schedule focus time, how to use task batching, then leave yourself breadcrumbs, and lastly, keep an interruptions log.
So schedule focus time. I discovered yesterday, because we don't use Outlook, and I was doing some research and I discovered that Outlook will put focus time on your calendar, whether you like it or not.
Oh.
If you haven't turned that thing off and if your organization has turned it on, which is interesting. I also was doing some reading of people that do have focus time and people that don't. For some people, the rest of their team doesn't do it or doesn't respect it, so they get interrupted. But there's other teams where almost the whole day is blocked off for focus time. So you may or may not be able to do this in your organization, but it's worth trying to see if you can. And this is putting time on your calendar to focus on specific tasks or projects and not accepting interruptions or not allowing interruptions during that time period. And this idea of focus time has become more acceptable in the last, I would say, 10 years because of Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, and Paul Graham's Make a Schedule, Manage Your Schedules, both of which talked about the benefits. So even if other people don't appreciate the technique for themselves, they at least might understand why you're using it because the term has become so ubiquitous.
To effectively protect your focus time, you want to start by clearly communicating your availability across all platforms. So you want to use the status indicator on your Slack or whatever your quick instant messaging is. You can change that notice. You can use it on a variety of other communication softwares. You can set it up just on your computer screen under like do not disturb, so you know that you're needing to focus time, or even just sending out a message of, hey, I'm going to be kind of out of pocket for, the next half hour I need to focus. Just communicating to the best of your ability.
And then you have to take away all of the distractions that I allow myself to be distracted with, like extra browser tabs, and I have to close down my email and close my instant messenger or turn it off so that all of those notifications or those distractions are not there. And for some people, that's really easy, and for others, it's harder. For some people, just closing the browser is enough. And for other people, you might need one of the programs that lock certain websites and make you do math or something before you can view them again. It depends on how easily distracted you are.
Smartwatches, that's a good one to shut off too, because they can get you every time.
Yeah. And nothing in this is new or revelatory. And yet, everybody complains about interruptions and distractions, which is why we're talking about it again.
And we first published our podcast, Email 3 times a day, back in 2013. And we got a lot of pushback of people said that we, this is in quotes, have an email culture and we're expected to always respond within 30 minutes. Now, we still do get a little bit of that response, but really nowadays it's that quick messaging system. So that Slack, the Teams Messenger, instant messengers. And that's where people feel like they have to live in it, less so than their email.
But often the need to respond is not actually driven by the urgency of the message, but our own desire to be needed, to be thought of as responsive, or even just to distract us from the work that's unstimulating or boring, or we've been doing for the last 20 minutes. It's like, oh, what's in my email? I can go there. And there's a little bit of that whole dopamine rush as well. It's a little bit like gambling in Vegas because you never know what's going to be in your email. So there could be something exciting. And because you get that intermittent reward, email just seems like, I'll go there. Or instant message or whatever it is that distracts you. And in many cases, we actually have more leeway to have focus time and to turn things off. Less happens than we think is going to happen. So there isn't, people actually don't expect us to respond in 15 minutes. We just think they do, or we want them to, so that we can be distracted. For those of us who like to distract ourselves.
It's like Wendy's talking directly to me. Oh, I just need a break from this. Let me check that.
Yeah, until you've tried putting an hour on your calendar and seeing if nothing happens, then you don't know. And we all go to meetings, we go to the restroom, we go for lunch, and, the world doesn't end because we don't respond during those times. So you're probably more likely to be able to get some focus time, not like 6 hours at a time, but maybe an hour at a time if you don't do it at all now, than you think.
And if you want other people to respect your calendared focus time, then you also have to respect theirs. It's a kind of a two-way street, a give and take. Too often we just send an urgent email or a Slack message, or you just want to quickly jump on a video call because we want to know the answer to the question right away. It's often very convenient, but it's not necessary for us to have that instant answer right now. Even though it allows us to stay in the flow of what we're doing, it oftentimes interrupts the person that we're communicating with. So it interrupts the other person. If this unthinking interruption is the standard in your team, it's possible that your whole team is losing up to 40% productivity. Research from Microsoft's Workplace Analytics team found that teams who protected their focus time completed complex projects up to 50 times faster than those with fragmented workdays.
50% faster. 50 times faster would be amazing. 50% faster is still good.
Sorry. Thank you, Wendy. I was just really excited.
You were. You're really convinced about this thing, right?
I'm on board. Do not disturb from here on out.
On the other hand, you can't be selfish and block off your entire calendar as focus time and be completely inaccessible to your colleagues. Most of us are not doing something that means we can never be interrupted. And if you implement focus times and the other suggestions we're going to make, you'll have significantly reduced the drag on your productivity that context switching causes. And so you can be available to your colleagues when they need you.
February is a common time for professionals to focus on skill building, training, and pursuing certifications as we aim to meet our New Year's resolutions or improve our career prospects. If that sounds like you, become a Career Tools licensee. Sign up today by visiting us online at manager-tools.com/career. Let's
talk about using task batching. While focus time for a project might still mean completing multiple tasks of different types in one session, task batching means that you group similar tasks, potentially from different projects altogether.
So, for example, if you were working on several client projects where each one needs a financial analysis and client communications, instead of completing all of the tasks for client A, so analyzing the data, creating the presentation, writing the email update, before moving on to client B, you might batch the similar tasks across the product. So you could spend one session doing financial analysis for all of the clients, and then another session doing all of the presentations, and a third session writing all of the client update emails. And this way, because you're in the same kind of mindset, you're doing the same tasks, it reduces the mental energy of switching between those tasks. If you can imagine doing financial analysis of one client, and then you look at the same task for the next client, like you'd be in the Excel mindset, you'd like, oh, I just looked at that, then you can stay.
You could utilize all those shortcuts, right? As you kind of learn, you get in the groove of like, I'm going to copy and paste, or I'm going to pull this from this, and being able to do that on repeat lets you do it a little bit faster, more focused, because if you do something over and over again, it gets easier.
Yeah, that in the groove thing, that's perfect.
And task batching not only reduces context switching, it also lets you align tasks with times when you feel the sharpest. By consolidating similar tasks, you can strategically schedule them when they best fit your mental state and energy levels. So, for example, batching administrative tasks for Friday afternoons takes advantage of your natural end-of-week energy expiration, and then preserving your more focused time, your peak focus time, which is typically in the mornings for those more complicated, high-demand work tasks.
If you must switch tasks, the secret to getting back to where you are is leaving yourself breadcrumbs. So you want to leave yourself clear notes about where you are in your work. And future you will appreciate the effort. And if you have good notes, it minimizes the time it takes to get back into that work, or like to get back into that groove, and therefore reduces the overall negative effect of context switching. And when we say clear notes, we mean something more than Q3 report, need info. Because how many of us have left a note like that for ourselves and then had no idea what it meant when we got back to the work?
Everyone should be nodding their head because we've all done it.
Yes, like 3 times a day.
I like to say future Amanda gets really frustrated with past Amanda leaving bad notes. When leaving yourself notes, consider including your current status, next steps, and context. So your current status should include what you've just completed, what you're in the middle of, and any decisions you've just made and any problems that you've identified. So giving yourself that information of exactly where to start from can be very helpful for future you.
Mm-hmm. And for the next steps, document the very next action you need to take, any issues that you need to resolve in order to move on, maybe resources that you need to continue, and any people that you're waiting to hear from.
Then lastly, you want to capture your context by noting which documents or files you have open, or important reference information that you're using, any relevant deadlines or time constraints, and then the link to resources. So whatever you're going to be needing next, have that ready to go. So when you do switch back to it, you can kind of hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Instead of having to fumble back of like, where was I? What does that note mean? And then you're searching in that email or whatever was happening that day. Yes, because as much as we like to think about it, past us is not great to future us if it's not detailed. I only laugh because this is essentially my life story. So
yeah, mine too. So for example, the note you might leave yourself would say, finished revenue analysis section. Next, need to add the Q3 hiring data from Sarah, emailed her today, using last year's templates in Q3 reports folder. All charts are done except the hiring visual. Meet to Melissa tomorrow at 10 a.m. to review draft, which seems incredibly detailed considering like you might pick it up the next day. But how many of us can't remember what we had for lunch, let alone what we were doing yesterday. I think we shortchange ourselves all the time. We just write, finish Q3 report.
Yeah.
And it seems like overkill. So when you're in the middle of the work, it feels like I would never forget what I'm doing now. And yet, we never do, right? For example, saving your work, saving a file with a title that you can remember in a place where you can find it. I mean, it's common sense, but how many times do we curse past us for not having done that? Like, I can't find that file. I can't remember what I called it. And even though Search has got so good, sometimes I can't find the word that's in the file to find the file that I'm looking for. So, common sense is true, but real life proves that I don't use common sense as often as I think I do.
Take the time now so you don't have to take it later, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of balance. And you'll also be less frustrated in the future. If you take the time now when it's fresh, then you can just get going on it instead of the searching. And then that also kills productivity because then you don't even want to do it. You're like, ah. And along with this, you can also keep an interruptions log. So an interruptions log sounds fancy, but it need only be a sheet of paper or a running document on your computer. And it really has two purposes. One is the immediate, and the other one is the medium term. So you can have this on just a piece of paper lying on your desk. I use Post-its on my screen. That's kind of where my reminders lie. Yeah, it's high tech because I would love real Post-its, but it makes your screen sticky. So you can use the technology, but even a piece of paper just to keep track of.
Yeah. So first, you're going to use it to capture any interruptions you get during your focused work, whether they come from you or outside. So example, you're working on a presentation for a particular meeting, and while you're doing that, maybe you distract yourself by wondering, oh, did we remember to invite this person to the meeting? And so rather than going to your calendar right then to see if the invite was sent, which is context switching because you're moving from working on the presentation to opening your browser, looking at the calendar, seeing if the person was invited. If they weren't, then you're thinking about, should I send them an email to make sure that they know that they were invited and so on. Just note it in the interruptions log and keep working on the presentation so that you stay in that task. So you just write on the piece of paper, did we invite Bob to this meeting? And again, writing enough so that you remember what that thought was is a courtesy to future you. You want to minimize the amount of time that you spend on that interruption, but then you also want to minimize the time later trying to remember what it meant. So there's a balance
Bob
there.
Question mark. Probably not enough information.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Or maybe you're interrupted by a call from a colleague and you send it to voicemail and you make a note to call back when you're done. Or if you actually answer, you note down what's required and you go back to the presentation and you actually send them what they need later on, rather than interrupting what you're doing, going and finding the document they need, sending it to them, and then coming back to the presentation. It's been like 15 minutes and now you're out of like, what was I doing and where had I got to?
And in the medium term, faithfully completing an interruptions log for a couple of weeks will give you a good idea as to what is consistently interrupting you and where they are. Are they from your work? Are they from more of your personal, external distractions, maybe because of your work location? And then where you could apply a more systematic approach to lessening these distractions. For example, if you often wonder who was invited to a specific meeting, make a checklist for those meetings so that everyone who should be on there was actually invited. So if you're always thinking about, oh, did I invite that person? Just know that that's constantly a distraction before meetings, and then make it part of the process to always check on your meeting invites beforehand so you don't have that distraction later. Or you can make it a weekly admin task to double check all the meetings for the next month. This way that when it does come to your mind, you can confidently dismiss it away.
This makes me think of also if you often have to come out of what you're doing to go find some piece of information, or like and you need like the phone number to something frequently, having that somewhere where you can get to it easily, that would be another way of stopping. It's not a distraction so much, but to keep you in the workflow and to minimize that context switching. So instead of searching for something, you actually have it somewhere easily obtainable when you're in the flow. And if you're persistently interrupted by a colleague, then think about whether there's another way you can give them what they need, or whether you can encourage them not to interrupt you during your focus time. Okay? Or maybe they're just calling every week for your financial numbers that you're preparing, and you don't get them done till lunchtime on Wednesday, and they call you every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. You can tell them, hey, I never get this done till noon, so I will send it to you at noon. You don't need to call me. Maybe that would work.
Yeah, it comes back to the communication. The more you can communicate, just giving people a heads up is a really great way to protect that focus time, give yourself reminders, because it's something that you can check back on too.
And so, as we mentioned earlier, none of these strategies are new or different. And most of us know what we need to do in order to be productive, and yet we allow ourselves to be distracted. And the real challenge isn't learning new techniques, it's consistently implementing the ones that we know work. And by scheduling focus time, batching similar tasks, leaving clear breadcrumbs for ourselves, and tracking our interruptions, we can significantly reduce the productivity drain of context switching. And this seems to just be ever more important because the way we work seems to include ever more distractions.
So easily to get distracted.
I was thinking about a job I had when I was, 20, and I literally worked in a government office. I had an office of my own with the door shut, and I was at the end of a corridor, and I probably didn't see anyone or answer my phone between 8 and noon every day, apart from at 10:30 when someone would come and tell me it was tea break time and that I had to come have a tea break. That would never happen today. There's just so many distractions. So implementing the things that we know work is the way to increase our productivity.
And keep you in the flow.
Exactly. And that's such a nice place to be when you're in the flow of the work. I'd much rather be there than flitting around between different things, even though I do that to myself all the time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, everyone. That's all for this week. Join us next week as we cover a new topic. Bye, everyone.
Bye.